Double Steel is a tandem of games developed by Bunkasha, best known for nothing, honestly, as these are the only two games that they've developed before disappearing into the backrooms. I wanted to check out these two forgotten games and see how they hold up, so let's get started. You could classify these games as racing games, however they're more mission-based driving games similar to Driver. Double Steel, aka Reckless the Yakuza Missions, was originally an Xbox exclusive, and later ported to the PS2 and GameCube. From the start, you have the choice of two different storylines, the Dragon Adventure and the Spy Story. First, let's check out the Dragon Adventure. For the first mission, you're tasked with taking down some Yakuza members in Hong Kong, led by the mastermind, Takashi. On the left side of the screen, you'll see the tools you have available to you. Rockets, which come out of thin air, and a slowdown mechanic which takes the icon of flashbangs for some reason. Every car in every level gives you the same amount of each, so there's no real reason to pick the right car for the job per se. You really just have to worry about the time limit. Every level apart from the first in each storyline just drops you in without any preamble. The only story present is in the mission briefings, which is strange considering that there are two protagonists. They never comment on the situation during the missions themselves, or share any banner, which makes you wonder why the developers bothered including any sort of characters at all. Now, don't get me wrong, I dislike the constant talking present in some AAA games, cough, Atomic Heart, cough, but there is a missed opportunity here. The motivation to progress through the game is reliant on its missions and gameplay, which, as you get to the third mission, Double Steel completely falls apart and never recovers. You have to protect a bus from kamikaze cars, and you'll come to realize that the game's physics are at odds with the gameplay. Cars only have 4 settings: full acceleration, delayed braking, and full left and full right. On top of that, they have absolutely no weight to them, so any bit of environment completely throws your car off into random directions, and any collision pushes your car off into a random direction. The game mostly revolves around smashing enemy vehicles, but every time you hit an enemy, you're bounced off into another direction, get caught on some scenery, or pushed up into the air. So it's really difficult to really navigate these narrow roads and complete your objectives, as most of the time you're just being ping-ponged around out of control. Midway through the mission set, the game makes the most of its shoddy handling by giving you a sewer platforming level, and this mission is properly frustrating. There is again no fine control over your vehicle. The buggy I'm using for this mission is actually the least sensitive vehicle in the game at this point. The premise for this mission is that somehow the police chief got trapped in the sewers and you need to go rescue him. You have to time moving platforms, avoid falling into the water, and do the occasional corkscrew. Another mission has you ramping into a dump truck to rescue a professor, after which you have to climb this construction to collect a briefcase. The issue with this mission is that the ramps to launch into the dump truck are sparse, but fortunately it just goes around in a loop, so you're not chasing it down across the city. Once you destroy the truck and the professor just runs away, you have to ascend this tower, but enemies are attacking you at the same time, so you can just be hit off of it and run out of time trying to climb back up. This is honestly one of the more interesting levels in the game, as it makes use of a unique environment within the map, but the majority of missions just really have you destroying enemy cars, which wouldn't be an issue if the collisions were any good. The Dragon Adventure culminates with you dueling the main antagonist on top of a rooftop. After you destroy his car, you get to ramp off the building, you get one cutscene, then you're free to go back and try and get a higher score on the missions, or check out the harder difficulty. Now, if you only play the Dragon Adventure, Double Steel is just average. The handling isn't great, it has some frustrating missions, but doesn't do anything overtly bad, nor overtly good. But remember, this game has 2 campaigns, and the Spy Story? Now that transcends the game all the way to the terrible category.
Chubby Wubby, this is Hubby Dubby. Are you there?
The majority of the Spy Story mechanically is the same, but there are select missions in this section which make the most out of the game's flaws. As I mentioned earlier, Double Steel takes place in an open world. However, each mission drops you into a random part of the map, so you never have a chance to get your bearings. The Spy Story has one mission where you have to collect plutonium from around the map and take it back to a designated location. But every bit of plutonium has its own location that it needs to go. And there's no full map in this game. The objective's location don't appear on the minimap until you're close to it, so you're reliant on the arrow on the top of the screen. but it points you in the literal direction to the objective, taking no account of the roads or actual traversable area. And you're on a time limit. You have to drive around guessing where to go because the arrow is useless. Because there's no obvious landmarks making each part of Hong Kong blend into each other. Having to collect the plutonium and take it back would be fine if there was a single drop-off point, but that's not the case. You're under pressure and playing a guessing game. Another mission requires you to take photos of Takashi on a boat, which requires you to drive along these piers and take ramps to a specific area. But again, like all missions, you're on a time limit, and each photo spot is placed across the pier. So you're rushing to get to the location, rushing to get out, drive across, do more car platforming just to get these photos. And remember that the handling in this game is less than stellar. Even if you make the jump, you can just roll over or be reset. The car may not brake in time and you'll fall into the water. You may turn too suddenly and fall into the water. And did I mention that this game has no camera control? So it's a challenge to properly align yourself, not only with the ramps, but to see what's around you. Try to reverse for a run-up? Too bad, you ran out of the road and you fall into the water. To top it all off, at the end of the mission you have to race to a random hill to finish it. An early mission has you do a race with cars that are programmed just to drive through you. And another just reuses the sewers from the Dragon adventure, but in reverse. The lack of car control was frustrating enough, but these missions just exacerbate the problem. The Spy's sewer mission starts out fine, having to destroy cars and then get out of the sewer. But remember, there's platforming sections down here, so you just need to do them again in reverse. But it doesn't matter how fast you take out the cars in the first half of this mission, because the game will then take away time when you get to this platforming. The Spy story specifically feels like it was designed to be as frustrating as possible, and not in a way to challenge the player, but to put all of the game's flaws completely in the foreground, if they weren't already. In the final mission, Takashi is trying to steal a rocket, and you just drive into it. Then somehow the rocket takes off with the spies in it, but it doesn't matter, you don't get a mission on the moon or anything, because the final mission in the Spy story just has you back on Earth collecting packages, unexplained. There were bad missions in the Dragon adventure, but none were as infuriating as the Spy story. At best, it's more the mediocrity that came before it, and at worst, it's an unfun, frustrating experience. Gameplay and the design in this game is obtuse, repetitive, and frustrating. I was able to put up with it during the Dragon adventure, but the Spy story took Double Steel from melted McDonald's ice cream to actual dirt, and not the Codemasters kind. I could go on about the terrible missions in this scenario, but I think I've made my point. If you want to know what the rest of the Spy story has to offer, it's more crashing cars, collecting things, and being unable to see where you need to go. Just to think, shortly after we got Midtown Madness 3, which does everything this game does with far more variety, cars, and actual free roam, multiple maps, multiplayer, and of course, better handling and an actual progression system. Double Steel just is not worth playing. It's surprising that it got a sequel. But what's more surprising is that this sequel is one of the best driving games on the original Xbox. Double Steel The Second Clash is a bizarre game, if only for its release. This game was published by Microsoft. It's a Japanese original Xbox exclusive that is completely in English. Like, there is no Japanese dub nor subtitles. Imagine if the Resident Evil 4 remake came out in the West only playable in Japanese. That'd be bizarre. Sales numbers are unavailable for Second Clash, but I can imagine they were quite low. The original Xbox wasn't really a popular system there, and the language barrier probably didn't help things. Which is a shame, because this game rocks. First off, the handling. It's been completely fixed, and no longer are you pushed around by every enemy and object. Your car has actual weight to it. You can take down enemy vehicles with ease, and traffic check civilian vehicles. The game's speed has also increased. If you noticed, in the first game, all cars were limited to 89 miles per hour, but in Second Clash, the slowest car in the game creeps just above that. Your rockets and bullet time from the first game are gone, but with the improved collisions and handling, they're not missed. You do now have a boost mechanic which charges up into 3 stages, each level giving you an additional wave of boost. I could review every single mission in this game just to try and get across how much more fun this is and just how good of a game Second Clash is, but I really think that this is something you need to check out for yourself. Yes, a lot of the missions do tread the same ground as the first game, but I cannot understate how much the improved handling and physics really elevate this gameplay loop. As you progress through the game, you unlock new cars like the previous one. However, unlike the previous game, you actually want to use different cars, whether they have slightly different handling characteristics or a little bit faster, maybe even a little bit tougher. The arguably best improvement in Second Clash is the open world. There is now an actual free drive mode with its own missions and secrets to discover. These include lap races, hidden car parts which unlock new cars after you get 5 of them, point-to-point races which allow you to take any route to the destination, pizza delivery, various challenges, and sniping missions. The variety here is unmatched. As an added bonus, the game also allows you to select various filters to use while driving. Now, most of these make it impossible to see, but some are really cool and even work in cutscenes. Speaking of improvements, Second Clash now also features camera control, but it is literal camera control. It doesn't pan around the car, but looks in a direction from a fixed position. But it is better than nothing and comes in handy in certain missions. Double Steel the Second Clash is fun, content-rich, and diverse. It's a complete polar opposite from the original game, and it's such a shame that it's not only region-locked, but console-locked to the original Xbox. Considering that this is a Microsoft published title, it's such a shame that it never came to the Xbox backwards compatibility program. There's no licensed cars, nor music, nor brands. Double Steel the Second Clash is truly a hidden gem, and it's well worth going out of your way to try and play this game. If the original Double Steel is a proof of concept, then Second Clash is the concept fully realized, and more. It's like if Criterion went from the original Burnout game straight to Burnout 3. I was very hard on the original Double Steel, because that game just straight up disappointed me, because I played the sequel first. When you play a later game in the series and then go back to the previous entries, you'll always typically find something worthwhile, whether it's concepts that later got cut, unique missions, story, set pieces, whatever. Just because Midnight Club LA exists doesn't mean that Midnight Club 3 or Midnight Club 2 shouldn't be played. To pull a more recent example, Tears of the Kingdom doesn't make Breath of the Wild obsolete. But going back to the original Double Steel, after playing Second Clash, not only does the game not hold up, it is so categorically worse in each possible way that it's hard to not dislike it. Double Steel the Second Clash is just pure arcade fun filled to the brim with content. And honestly, put some recent open world games to shame. So, that's my retrospective on the Double Steel series. Avoid the original at all costs, apart from just morbid curiosity, but definitely play the Second Clash. Whether you have an original Xbox, or maybe you want to check it on an emulator. I'm not sure how it emulates on the various original Xbox emulators, but still, it is worth trying and it is worth playing. If you have any experience with the series, please let me know down below. And what are some other hidden gems, whether on the original Xbox and other platforms, that you feel deserve some more recognition? Thanks for watching.